Hello everyone, and welcome to the Old Ways for the New Age podcast, where we are embracing ancient ways of being and opening our hearts to the magic in everyday life. I am your host, Kristy, founder of Bohemian Farmhouse and Midnight Kin. In this show, we will discuss topics like living slowly with ritual and with reverence for the earth and our bodies, herbal wisdom and plant spirit stories, traditional ways of life, and have conversations with changemakers who step lightly on the earth. Join us as we romance the ordinary, re-enchant our own lives with plant magic, and get ourselves back to the garden. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Old Ways for the New Age podcast. I am Kristy, founder of Bohemian Farmhouse and Midnight Kin. So I hope everyone is doing well. It's a beautiful spring day outside, and I hope that you get to enjoy some of it and are able to lift your face to the sun just a little bit. Take some time today to listen to the birds. One of my favorite quotes is, "When you sit with nature, nature comes to sit with you." And it's so important just to go and sit on the ground and just be. It's actually really, really hard, especially if you haven't done it before or you haven't done it since you were a child. So if you can find some time today to just go and sit on the ground and wait for nature to come and sit with you. And the first 30 seconds, you'll probably notice that you're antsy, you want to move around a lot, you're uncomfortable, your mind starts thinking of all these different things. But then you start to notice what's around you. You start to look at the plants or the grass, and you start to listen, and you hear different things. And then you might notice a lady beetle, or a butterfly, or a bird, or even just a little spider. And the more you do this, the more you notice, and the more you suddenly are in the world and in the moment, and less in your head, less in the past and less in the future. Today we're doing another solo episode, and we are going to talk about my absolute all-time favorite herb, Yarrow. I adore Yarrow. It is one of those plants that has so many beautiful uses, but its capacity to help in spiritual and energetic ways is unparalleled in my opinion. I absolutely love it. My experiences with Yarrow have always been magical, really. We actually used to have a spirit journey meditation up on the Bohemian Farmhouse website, where you could listen to my voice guiding you to an experience with Yarrow. And whenever I've done that meditation for myself, I have always seen Yarrow as like a Celtic warrior woman with blue face paint patterns all over her face. And she comes in and she's quite fierce, but in a friendly sort of way. It's actually very hard to describe, but I think you'll get it once you experience it for yourself. So energetically, Yarrow is really beautiful for working with boundaries, and it's quite funny because that is the growth habit of Yarrow. It tends to run itself and grow along things. So if you put it in a garden bed and there's nothing else in the garden bed, it will take over and it will just cover the entire garden bed. But if you grow it with others, it will grow along the perimeters of the garden bed and then edge in a little bit around all the plants. And I find that that's very representative of the way that it works with boundaries. It was actually traditionally grown as a boundary fence herb, so people would grow it along their fences and their boundary lines. And Yarrow teaches us very much so that we need to work on our own personal boundaries, whether that's our energy or our actual physical boundaries. So if you're a people pleaser and you have problems with saying no, then Yarrow will be your best friend. She will teach you that it is okay and that no is actually a complete sentence. And I actually find that when you're harvesting Yarrow, you need to actually talk to Yarrow and ask permission. And sometimes she will say no, and you need to respect that. It's actually funny as well because her beautiful feathery fern-like leaves, if you run your hands upwards along them, they're actually beautifully soft. But if you rub them the wrong way and you rub them down, they're quite prickly. She doesn't have any hairs or spines or thorns or anything like that. It's just somehow the leaf pricks you if you rub it the wrong way. And I think that's a lesson as well, to be very mindful when you're working with Yarrow, to always ask permission and to show her the respect that you should be showing yourself and should be demanding for yourself. So she teaches you both ways, to not only set your boundaries, but to respect boundaries as well. In the medicine cabinet, Yarrow is one of those herbs that can do a lot. Yarrow is known to stop bleeding. There's actually a really interesting old wives' tale where you get a leaf of yarrow and you roll it up along itself and you put that up your nose. And if your nose bleeds when you're thinking about your love interest, that means that they are your true love. And if it doesn't, it means that they are not. And it's really funny because yarrow can actually start bleeding as well as it can stop bleeding. So it's also beneficial for women's health as well. And it has been known to stop nosebleeds. And that's actually a traditional way of stopping a nosebleed too, to roll up a leaf of yarrow and pop it in your nose. And it will stop the bleeding of the nose. Yarrow actually has a long history of being used as a war herb. So it was used very extensively in battles, obviously to stop bleeding. But it can heal wounds as well. It's also very antibacterial. It's a fantastic cold and flu remedy. One of my all-time favourite things to do when I feel a cold coming on is to have a yarrow and cinnamon tea whilst I'm in the bath, with yarrow leaves and flowers in the bath as well. And that just seems to knock it out straight away. And it's a really nice experience as well. It's just a pleasant thing to do. Historically, yarrow actually goes back a really, really long way. They have found evidence of yarrow being used in Neanderthal burials going back 40,000 odd years. And they hypothesized that, of course, there's the possibility that they simply used yarrow because it was readily available. But there would have been a lot of other flowers readily available. So what made them choose yarrow? Yarrow is not typically a herb or flower that you would eat and consume because it's quite bitter. So it leads you to believe that perhaps, and this is speculation, perhaps the Neanderthals knew of the healing quality and they were using this herb in their burials and rituals around burials and death as a way of maybe showing how that particular person passed away. Perhaps they passed away from a wound that could not be stopped, and so they used yarrow in the burial. Or perhaps they even knew about the spiritual qualities of yarrow and they were using it as a protection herb as well. Speaking more on the protection side of things, which goes hand in hand with the boundaries, yarrow can be very protective, and it's really, really good for empaths and highly sensitive people, or people who use their intuition a lot, because it can create that boundary, of that energetic boundary as well, more in a protective way to keep any negative energies out as well. And it is for that reason that we actually use Yarrow. Well, we use Yarrow in a lot of our lotions and potions at Bohemian Farmhouse. But we use it in our Spirit Warrior blend, which we have in a mist and a roller. And if you work in, say, an office with lots and lots of other people, or maybe in a school, or just in an environment where there are a lot of different energies around you, you will find that it kind of creates like a invisible shield around you, kind of stopping other people's energy from entering. And also, as Yarrow works both ways, stopping your energy from leaking outwards as well. And I should mention actually that when you grow Yarrow in the garden, Yarrow is actually a natural insect and bug repellent as well. So it's good to grow it around your veggies and other herbs that are susceptible to bugs. It will protect them a little bit from getting destroyed by bugs as well. I think you can definitely see a theme starting here, and once you start to learn a plant and you grow it and you use it and you meditate with it, you actually can see that a lot of the ways that it works will just be mirrored in all aspects. So, for example, what I said earlier about the leaf going both ways, one way showing disrespect and it actually pricking you, the other way it's soft and you're showing respect. It's just interesting how you can see it time and time again coming through like that. You can also use Yarrow as a compost accelerator as well. So if you just chuck a couple of leaves into the compost, it'll accelerate the process. And you can pick the fresh young leaves to throw in salads as well. The bitterness of them, they're not too bitter when they're young, but the bitterness of the leaf in the salad is really good for your digestion. We also use Yarrow in a lot of our skincare. It's fantastic for not just healing the skin, but it's also really good for skin health and keeping skin non-greasy as well. And I actually just love using it on my skin. I feel like there's a little bit of poetry and symbolism there when you think of the skin as being your barrier of your body from the outside world, and it's essential to maintain your skin as a healthy barrier for your internal health as well. So we use it in things like our Blue Moon Balm and our Rhiannon Face Oil. I actually think I've got Yarrow in, I would say maybe 70% of our recipes. It's just such a fantastic all-rounder. Along with the beautiful green fern-like leaves, it actually has this gorgeous white flower that it looks like all these tiny little white daisies all clustered together, and that sits at the top of a long stem that shoots up from that ferny base which clusters down below on the ground. And those white flowers smell sort of almost, I would say, honey-like, nectar-like, but with a little hint of daisy as well. The flower actually contains azulene. Azulene is one of the compounds that you'll find in a few different essential oils. It's a volatile compound, which is what essential oils are made up of. They are made up of volatile compounds. Azulene is one of those. You can find azulene in things like blue tansy or blue cypress and chamomile. It's kind of like a cooling kind of effect. It's not like a menthol effect like you would find from peppermint where it almost feels too cold, but it's just a very sort of calming effect. So if you've got really angry, red, inflamed skin, it's going to be really good for that soothing and calming feeling. What else can I say about Yarrow? I mean, I could say a lot more. And by the way, I don't have any notes. When I do these, I just kind of let whatever's in there come out. And so you might find that I do go back and forth. But I feel like it's a really nice sort of almost channeled way to do it. And as with everything, always when you are starting a new herb when you are starting to use a new herb, be mindful of its contraindications and what other medications you are taking. And always, always, always research as much as you can before you start taking a herb and get the advice of a professional. These episodes are just meant to give you a little window into the herb and the way that I appreciate the herb personally, and the ways that I would use it, and its energetic, spiritual, metaphysical properties. So if you wanted to start working with Yarrow, I would recommend growing her first and just getting to know her. It might feel silly to start with, but just sit down and ask the plant questions and see what pops into your head, and just go with the first thing. Don't question it, don't judge it, don't doubt it. Just go with the first thing that pops into your head. It's usually the purest and the most channeled from the plant. Just build a relationship with her. Ask every time before you harvest. Show gratitude, say thank you once you have. And she does like offerings as well. So if you want to maybe pluck a piece of hair or cut an end off and just bury it around her roots, she really appreciates that. Ways that you could work with her aside from growing would be maybe with the essential oil. I would definitely start off using the essential oil in a very diluted oil in the bath water, and just sort of see what comes up, having her envelope your whole body like that and creating that beautiful barrier around your body. And we will have the Spirit Journey meditation back up. It just won't be through the Bohemian Farmhouse website. We'll actually be putting it into our Teachable Old Ways for the New Age school. So you can purchase it separately or in a bundle with all the other Spirit Journey meditations that we will have. We'll have a couple. We'll have one with rose and one with frankincense and one with elder. They'll probably be available again within the next month after we launch our herbal homesteading course. And my other favourite way of using Yarrow is, if you are growing it, to harvest and dry one of the blooms, the flower, and keep it in a little pouch, like a talisman pouch, and carry that around with you for protection. So I think we're about done for the day. Thank you again so much for listening, and until next time, bye. Thank you so much for being here and for listening. I know your time is sacred and special, and I really appreciate you spending yours with me. Thank you, and until next time, bye.